Today's August 5th, 2019. 5 years ago, John Crawford III, a young man whose mother lived a couple doors down the street from my best friend growing up, was murdered by Officer Sean Williams at the Beaver Creek Police Department. I arrived 5 minutes after he was killed with my oldest son. We happened to be in the area.
Sir, what's going on?
Gunshots in the store.
Gunshots, and a 22-year-old black man, John Crawford, lay dying on the floor of a Walmart in Beaver Creek, Ohio. Shot and killed by a white police officer, as seen here on surveillance video, almost immediately when they approached him. Crawford had been in the store for several minutes, holding a gun and talking on his cell phone. An eyewitness named Ronald Ritchie called 911.
There's a gentleman walking around with a gun in the store.
Is he got it pulled out?
Yeah, he's like pointing at people.
What did he look like?
He's a black male, probably about 6 foot tall.
Police were dispatched to the store, thinking they were headed to an active shooter situation based on the witness who called 911. They didn't know Crawford was holding a toy gun he had picked up in the store. 5 weeks later, the 911 caller told the Guardian newspaper, quote, "At no point did he shoulder the rifle and point it at somebody." He also said something similar to our CNN affiliate WHIO.
He wasn't actually holding it to get it ready to shoot somebody.
Ronald Ritchie has not returned our calls for comment, and neither the police or the state attorney would talk to us about Ritchie, who is an important witness to the case. Crawford's girlfriend had been waiting in their car. After the shooting, police questioned her, accusing her of lying.
To interrupt just for a minute, that girlfriend of John Crawford III later mysteriously died. Her car went completely out of control and she crashed on the streets of Dayton, Ohio, going way too fast, way faster than anybody would normally reasonably go, even if they were speeding in the streets of downtown Dayton, Ohio, like 90 and above. Doesn't make sense. It was on New Year's Day, I believe, of the following year. She was obviously, one of the key witnesses. She ends up mysteriously dead after this tape was forced to come out because of huge protests and marches. Beaver Creek Police Department, Walmart, all of them refusing to release the tape at the time. So it's an interesting little tidbit if you wonder what happened to this young lady.
Asking her where Crawford got the gun, even saying she appeared to be high on drugs.
You understand that we're investigating a serious incident. You lied to me, and you might be on your way to jail. Where did you get this gun?
Sir, I don't know.
Later in the 90-minute drilling by police, word came that Crawford had died.
Well, to let you know, unfortunately, John has passed away as a result of this. What happened there wasn't a good thing.
Less than 2 months later, the grand jury's decision was announced.
The grand jury deliberated, and they returned no indictment. They decided that the police officers, and the police officer in particular that fired the shots, was justified in doing what he did.
This weekend, Cleveland Browns wide receiver Andrew...
Yeah, so if you followed this story, if you followed this case, you know how this went. Today marked the 5th anniversary. Some folks got together, did a candlelight vigil, and all of that. And this is just coming really like a day after the Dayton mass shooting, which is another story. The media is covering up the white supremacist focus of that mass shooting, the third white supremacist act of terrorism and mass shooting in the past week. They're finally starting to admit that this guy was a misogynist and hated women, but they're not letting people know that this was a racially motivated act of terrorism against the shooter's sister. because she was dating a black man. And 6 out of 9 of the people that he killed were, in fact, black people in the Oregon district, which is notoriously white and hipster. So it's a little statistically improbable that that many black people were going to get shot unless they were being targeted for not being white. Anyway, I digress. The point is, I wasn't personally really in the wake of all of this, in the candlelit vigil sort of thing, and I wasn't really in that mode. And much respect to the people who were, I just wasn't. I think that we're going to have to start looking at things a little differently. In the past week, one of those 3 white supremacist acts of terrorism was this El Paso Walmart shooter. This white man came into Walmart in El Paso, killed 20, I believe it's up to like 22 or something now, targeting Latino individuals, indigenous peoples of this continent, targeting them. Walked in with an AK-47, even had ear protection on, making it clear, visibly clear, he was not even an open carrier. He was shouldering the weapon from the get-go, which is brandishing. He had ear protection on, making it clear he was there to fire that weapon. And yet, the police managed to take this gentleman, to take him alive. And I find that remarkable. I find that absolutely remarkable that, and these are some of the scenes of the people down there, but that he was taken alive, and John Crawford was gunned down by Officer Sean Williams, who was not indicted for his crime, who's back on patrol. He's not even on desk duty. So this is a little interesting. John is there minding his own business, talking on the cell phone to the mother of his child, and his girlfriend's getting stuff for a barbecue, and he picks up a plastic, very clearly plastic, scaled down model, a BB gun model that's supposed to look like a Bushmaster ACR, and much smaller. I have the Bushmaster ACR. It doesn't look anything like this little BB gun. I mean, it's the same design, but one is a hollow plastic toy, which I also have. I have the BB gun as well. And the other is clearly a weapon. If anybody would have stopped for a second and talked to him, he wasn't aiming it at anybody. Ohio's an open carry state. And of course, it wasn't even a gun. It was literally a toy gun. My kids shoot mine in my suburban backyard. We've never had the police called, and nobody's afraid. People see it, they know it's a toy. Everybody knows it's a toy when they see this little thing. It doesn't look like a gun. It looks like maybe in the video you see it, you think, oh, maybe, it's a grainy video. In real life, you see it, and that's why nobody was freaking out at that Walmart. Personally, I myself took a Bushmaster ACR and marched to that spot to make a point, to the spot where John was killed. And, of course, I was not killed, and I'm also not a black man. So I'm noticing, seems like black man goes into Walmart, picks up a plastic toy, he dies. White man goes into Walmart, shoots a bunch of indigenous people, and he walks out in handcuffs. And that's what's going on right now in America. And Donald Trump today was talking about these mass shootings, and he talked about how valuable the lives of all the citizens in El Paso are. The citizens. So he made it clear with his coded language that he was telling his white nationalist, white supremacist followers and disciples to not target American citizens. He didn't say that about anywhere else. He didn't say citizens in Dayton, in California at the Garlic Festival. Citizens. So this is very clearly Trump related and Trump generated, and it's not going to stop. And unfortunately, it's not going to stop. By praying thoughts and prayers, it's not going to stop. Again, much respect to the candlelit vigils. That stuff's important. It's very important. It's very honorable to remember the dead, to light candles. I'm not denigrating that. It's a holy act. But that's not going to stop it. That's going to honor the dead, and that's the point of a candlelit vigil. But it's not going to stop this. And neo-Nazis are not going to be disarmed by the police that are selling them their black market weapons. Most of these neo-Nazis are felons in the first place. They're not allowed to legally own firearms, but they're still getting them. They're getting them because the ones of them that are not felons get jobs with police departments, and they sell out of the evidence locker and otherwise, and military recruiters, just like down in Cincinnati and Fairfield, not far where John Crawford's family's from, Forest Park. The Fairfield military recruiters selling machine guns for $600. White supremacists are going to continue being armed, and they're going to continue shooting people. They're going to continue targeting minorities, whether Jews, black people, Latino people, indigenous people, or any minority that they don't like, homosexuals, the LGBT community. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Bob Dylan famously said, "It don't take a weatherman to tell you which way the wind blows." The question isn't which way the wind's blowing, it's what we're going to do now that we can see the storm clouds coming, and we're hearing the thunder and seeing the lightning. What are we going to do now?